We did a fascinating case study about a month ago. We swapped out a traditional vending machine with the motors and the codes, and that machine was doing $35 a day. So it was doing right around 11 to 1200 bucks a month. We pulled that machine and put a smart machine in. Same exact location. Our daily sales went from $35 a day to last month $120 a day.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show laser focused on inspiring you to take action to start or scale your side hustle income streams. I'm your host, Joan. Why did sales more than triple when today's guest swapped out an old style vending machine with a smart AI-driven model? It's just one of the insights that Mike Hoffmann reveals about what you need to know to start and scale a profitable vending machine side hustle in today's economy. He's learned a lot of lessons over the time he's grown his business, from a single vending machine to now having 40. In today's episode, you'll discover the hallmarks of a profitable location, so you know what to look for. Tips on pitching a location's property owner or manager. Mike's insights on buying a machine, new versus used. Where to buy product and what to stock in your machines. And crucially, recent AI-driven developments that are now disrupting the vending machine industry in a massive way. But first, here's a little something fun. If our chats are lighting up your entrepreneurial spark and you're gaining insights, inspiration, and ahas, a fun way to show your support and to give the show a caffeinated thumbs up is to head on over to sidehustlehero.com/support, where you can shoot me over a large soy latte, or maybe even a double espresso. It really is a thing over at sidehustlehero.com/support. Thank you from the bottom of my coffee cup. Now here's my conversation with the guy known as Mr. Passive, Mike Hoffmann. Welcome, Mike.
Joan, thanks for having me.
Well, there is a seemingly endless stream of side hustle opportunities out there. Why vending machines? Why you sold on them?
I think just the tangible component of them and the simplicity of buy something at Costco for $1 and sell it for $3.
Okay, so you've already answered one of my questions, where you get your product from. Well, what prompted you to get into it and buy your first machine?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for my day job, I used to travel a lot, and I'd sit in these airports and during layovers, and I'd always go to a vending machine, and I'd be curious, like, how in the heck can they charge $6 for a cold brew coffee that you can get literally for $2 outside of an airport? And then I realized, okay, there's some entrepreneurial guy or gal that's literally got this location. And so I just did a little kind of dive on it and became fascinated. And the more I learned, Joan, I realized this was actually Warren Buffett's first ever income stream when he was a teenage boy.
Are you serious?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he started a vending route when he was 18. He sold it when he was 19 because it's like flipping a home. He just took the equity on the sale, and he regrets it to this day. It's crazy.
That is so cool. So what year was that? How long ago was that for you?
2018, right before COVID, is when I got into it.
So 2018. So you would have been doing a bunch of online research. Did you keep that one machine? What happened from there?
I have. Yeah, and that location's been cash flowing about $600 a month ever since in profit.
How did you go about getting your first location?
I was all about trying to think through foot traffic and where would people go to buy a snack without going to just down to the 7-Eleven or Wawa. So I went to an apartment complex. I live in a college town right next to campus. And I was like, college kids coming home from late night fun might get the munchies. So I went in there one day and asked the manager if they had vending. She said no. Of course, they're trying to provide amenities to their residents to keep occupancy high. And she's like, we're ready to move forward. And Joan, I didn't even know where to go find a vending machine.
Right.
Thank gosh for Google, because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you source your first one?
So I went online and searched, and obviously there's a lot of manufacturers of these kind of machines in China. And I was like, yeah, I need like more customer support. And I found a company out of Iowa that had a ton of YouTube videos that were how to. So, like how to bring a machine through a doorway, how to set the prices. And so I knew if I got a machine through them, I could
Right.
watch these videos and be a kind of a self learner. So I pulled the trigger on a machine from them. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
When you said YouTube videos on how to get it through the door, I just had a flashback to a deli that I owned, and we bought a new cooler, and we
Oh,
got it in there, but then we needed to get it into this back room, and it's like, oh crap, this thing doesn't fit. And we literally had to cut the drywall in the door to get it through and
yeah.
then fix it afterwards.
Yeah, good thing is
Right.
machines aren't, yeah, they're not as big as like those commercial fridges or commercial freezers, and you can just open the door and it's 2 feet versus 6 feet.
Yeah. And this was an older building that we were in too. So the doorway might not even have been to code, like it might even been smaller than that of it going through. So how many machines do you have today?
Oh, let's see. Well over 40.
Nice.
I kind of lost track because I actually acquired a route in remotely in Chicago recently, so our portfolio continues to expand.
Well, what was happening in your business then that prompted you to decide, I should get a second machine?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me was that machine that was doing over $1,000 a month, $600 in profit. I would spend 30 minutes a week on it. And so I kind of knew like, okay, I'm going to Costco once a week, whether I have one machine or two machines or three machines,
Right.
it's the same amount of work plus a half hour per machine. So why wouldn't I parlay that? And so that's kind of what led me into diving into a second, a third machine.
And pop and chips and vending machines have been a staple forever. Can I assume that or hoping that there's a trend towards more healthy choices in there?
There's totally a trend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially with the new generation. And we see it firsthand with a lot of these college kids in these luxury apartments that they don't want a Pepsi, they want a yerba mate, they want a sugar-free Celsius, things like that.
Okay. And so what are some of your best sellers now then?
Celsius is definitely a top seller if we're thinking energy drinks. I think if you're looking at more of the just kind of regular drinks, there's always the Gatorade Zeros that are 0 calorie. There's always now there's Prime, which is a hydration drink. Even Liquid Death is a fascinating popular drink with the younger generation. And then on the snack side, there's a lot of like even protein chips, which I've never tried before, but I mean, these things will have 20 grams of protein and less than 3 grams of sugar. So
Oh, wow.
they're
Yeah.
kind of a hot thing with some of these younger generation.
I guess that's one of the keys to the profitability then too. Like any business is knowing your demographic, who's your
Mhm.
customer and catering to them. You must see that in your route of, what did you say, 40 machines?
Yeah,
You're going to be
and this
stocking
is
them differently depending on where they are.
exactly. We have a location not even a mile from this younger crowd next to campus. We have another complex that's more of the 50 to 60-year-olds that will just rent their whole life and they're totally happy with it. And it's the Diet Coke and Reese's crowd that we're trying to get them to buy a LaCroix or buy a seltzer water instead of a Diet Coke. And they're stuck in their ways.
So you know what sells and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the move to the healthy stuff, do you see another trend that's maybe just starting to emerge?
I think the trend of actually getting away from traditional vending machines. Now there's a lot of AI camera type machines we've installed where Joan comes up to the machine. She doesn't have to enter in any codes for a specific product. She literally puts her credit card on the door, opens the door or unlocks the door with that credit card. And then whatever you grab, there's AI cameras that have a planogram of what's in that machine and will charge you. So rather than you might grab a water, a salad, and a bag of chips because you don't have to enter in a code to do another transaction. So that really increases the transaction values because it's less friction for the buyer. So that's been a huge trend lately.
I remember seeing an article on that now, maybe about a year ago, and it looked like something about the size of an Atco trailer, but much nicer looking, and much more glass and being able to view in it from the front. And then you walk into it, and yeah, basically it's like you're shopping in a mini store. Is that the way it
That's
works?
exactly it. So
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
There's these kind of along the hallway in the terminals in the Denver airport, or you'll see them in sporting facilities, but they Amazon has just walkout technology, so the gate will unlock when you put your credit card on there, and then there's cameras following you and tracking whatever you grab, and then for you to leave the walkway on the other side. So you're not even talking to anyone.
Right. Hmm. Any idea what the price tag is on those?
Depending on the coolers, I mean, if you want a whole setup like the Amazon one, you're looking at 100 grand. But if you want
Sure.
just like the smart coolers that we're doing a ton of, you're in the market of 5 to 7K.
Really? And as far as
Hmm.
a smart cooler, what size are they? Or is it literally like a cooler that the door unlocks and then you're just reaching into for whatever?
Yeah, it's
Is that
literally the same
okay?
companies you probably bought the coolers from for your deli. They
Right.
will actually these companies will buy from a minus 40 or any of these manufacturers, and then they'll put the technology in those coolers.
Nice. Hmm. Well, suppose I'm sold at getting into the vending machine business as a side hustle. Where do I even start? What should be my first step?
The first step would be to think about high traffic locations that you are exposed to, whether that's you have kids and you go to every Saturday, you take them to soccer, and there's all these parents at a park that has a restroom area and everyone, but there's no
Mhm.
concession stand, or the YMCA, or the medical plaza you drive by that has chiropractic on the first, orthopedics on the third, a CPA office on the fourth, and there's one central. Basically, if there's a full parking lot, that's going to be a great vending location.
Okay. And would you be approaching the property manager?
That would be the ideal situation to
Okay.
start. But a lot of these locations will have a lobby or front desk lady that can get you to that PM. And so usually, yeah, you just walk in, ask for the property manager, and then if you frame it as a no cost to them, so you're going to buy the machine, you're open to a revenue share with them or their client. So if it's a PM for a landlord who's worried about occupancy, who's worried about interest rates on their loans, you can introduce the revenue share opportunity and then minimal space needed, and you're off and running.
Is it typically profit share or a flat rate per month?
It totally depends. We have both options. It's more, do you want to rev share is probably the easiest, just right off the top. Like you get 2% of revenue, but we have people where we'll lead with like 10% of profits because it makes like that 10% seems bigger to
Mm-hmm.
lead with. So we'll either do 2% of revenue or like 10% of profits.
Okay. And are you using some kind of a software platform that the property owner or property management company can tap into, or are they just taking your word for it? How does that work?
We'll provide usually quarterly sales reports to them that we just download as a PDF, but I think that is where the market is going, is we finally can now, as an operator, can track remotely on our phone's inventory.
Mhm.
And then how do we give ownership or a PM visibility without sending a PDF once a quarter with our check? I think the other side of this you got to keep in mind is these PMs, they're putting out fires all day. So they don't want to have to think about it. I mean, giving them login access would be ideal, but I have PMs where I'll reach out to them about dropping off a check for revenue share and they won't respond for 2 weeks. And it's not, I
Yeah.
mean, that's literally like, hey, can I come give you a check? And they're just literally putting out fires all day long.
Yeah. And so, in part because of that, then the trust factor hasn't been an issue as far as the percentage that they're getting. Are they just trusting you that you're giving them a check for what you should be?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you got to
Yeah.
keep in mind the PM's not, they're not motivated by the revenue because a lot of times they have to pass that through to the client. They're motivated
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
by residents or tenants being happy and occupancy.
Are you finding that there's locations that are just a no-go that are regulated internally or
Yeah, there's definitely no-go locations. Like I'm huge on kind of making it worth your time and being able to walk away. And you, even though you might get a hit from a cold call or a cold email from a property that has 300 units, but if it's 17 garden style buildings spread out over a long area, they're not going to the clubhouse every day. to
Mm,
get their mail. They're not going to the clubhouse to walk through it to get up to their to take an elevator up to their room. Like they're just going and driving straight to their apartment in building 10. And so like for a property like that, yeah, it has 300 units, but the foot traffic for where you're going to put that in the clubhouse is going to be minimal.
so I guess that's part of the homework is hanging out at that location and actually really seeing what the traffic is like.
Absolutely. You got to qualify the location more than they're qualifying you. And I think just going by there and putting yourself in their shoes. Do I work on the fifth floor? Okay, if I work on the fifth floor, how am I getting there? Is there a back door? Is there a front door? Where all that? Or like in this case with the apartment, it's okay, if I live in building 10, where am I picking up my Amazon packages? Do I go to that gym? Is it a nice gym? Or do they just go to a different gym? Kind of put yourself in their shoes.
Right. And when you are approaching that, we'll say property manager, are you looking for a lease arrangement as opposed to month to month?
Uh, Yeah, at least a lot of these service agreements, there's going to be a 30 to 60 day out anyway. So, yeah, you definitely want an agreement, and that'll definitely help you if you ever sell your route someday. But, I think of my first 10 locations, I probably had seven that weren't under contract, and they've already expanded to other sister properties, etc.
Right. Okay. Any tips that come to mind for what to look for in a lease when negotiating that with the property manager?
People assume that you need to lead with revenue share, and you will be surprised at how many property managers don't care. And I don't mean that in like a arrogant way. They
Mhm.
just their pain is the resident that comes down at 10 p.m. and is like, why don't we have a vending machine? Their pain is not, I need an extra $300 a month from your vending machine.
Right.
And so you don't really need to lead with revenue share. Sometimes it's strategic. If you know they have four sister properties in the town, or if we're talking property managers that have a whole portfolio, you might say like, oh yeah, we'll definitely do revenue share if you entrust to five more. And now right away, you're up to six. So there's that side of it. And then the other side with the agreement that people don't think about, they're always thinking about protecting themselves from getting booted out by the property. But if this is a bad location, you might want to pull the machine yourself. And if you're
Right.
locked into a contract that doesn't allow you to do that, now you're kind of SOL.
That's a good point, especially with your first machine. You're all excited. Oh man, I'm going to make all this
Yeah.
money, not thinking about, oh, what if this doesn't work out?
Yeah. Spot on. And Joan, I see this
Yeah.
all the time. Like I'll have people reach out to me on social media and they'll be like, hey, I got my first three vending machines. Can I pick your brain? And the first question I ask is, oh, how much revenue is each machine doing? And they're like, they're sitting in my garage. And I'm like, well,
Ooh,
why did you buy a vending machine well, I figured I'd buy it before I go find a place. And it's like, so then naturally they're just trying to find a place to dump this machine without qualifying the actual place they're dumping the machine, because it's got to be better than sitting in my garage. And it's like, no, you're doing this backwards. It's the same thing where people will try to build a side hustle and go down the route of like, I need a logo, I need a website. And it's like, well, maybe we should see if there's actually a product market fit first.
right. So then the first step would be I would want to crunch the numbers. So I would look at, okay, what's this machine going to cost me? How much can I buy the product for? What's the markup? What's the foot traffic?
Mhm.
Go through all that and say, okay, I can set that aside now. I got to find that killer first location.
Exactly.
Then you get the location, you get the lease signed, ideally. For what length of time? Or is that a non-issue? Because either party can get out in 30 to 60 days anyway.
It's a non-issue. I mean, we'll
Okay.
throw in 3-year contracts and then they'll come back and be like, yeah, we're going to do 12 months and you're going to take it.
Right, right, to get the machine in there. And then at that point, then you go and order the machine because you've done the research, you know how long the delivery time is going to be, which brings me to another point, new versus used machine.
Oh man, you really want me to tell this story about my failures, huh?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so my one of my first locations, I was like, oh, I'm gonna save a couple $1,000s. A new machine is around, depending on how exotic you want to get with the AI cameras, is around 6K. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna save a buck and get a $3,000 machine from Craigslist. So I bought a used machine and I had it delivered to the location, the apartment complex in this case. And sure enough, 6 months into this machine, doing sales, yada, 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 it breaks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no warranty. There's no one to call. This manual I found online is from like whenever. And so I literally had to get rid of the machine. And I will never use a used machine again because I don't want to be a machine expert. And there's two sides of this fence. Like I have people that I help build vending routes for. In fact, one of them has 40 machines and they're all used. He's becoming a machine technician basically, and I want nothing to do with any of
Right.
that. So like
Yep.
we get new machines. If God forbid something happens, literally we're on the phone FaceTiming with the manufacturer. They will walk you through a quick troubleshoot and they're like, okay, we're going to send out this part overnight and it's out of sight, out of mind. You get a used machine
Right.
and that machine company really has no interest in picking up the phone from you anyway. So I'm not a fan of used machines.
And I could totally see that. Like myself, I would get the brand new machine, want it under warranty, be able to pick up the phone. But I also, somebody else comes to mind, they would totally understand how everything in that thing is working and they would just fix it themselves and have the capability to do it. I would imagine that's easier to do with the older machines that are all mechanical. But then as you get more and more into the computerized stuff, you need a software technician, not a mechanic.
Exactly.
Or,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
not dealing with motors anymore. And then the other side of this too, that back to the argument for new machines is when I buy new machines now, I finance them over 60 months and then I usually have them paid off within 9 months from the profits of the machine.
Within nine
So
months.
yeah, so because I'll be a little aggressive with the principal and just go after the kind of the lease, so to speak. And a lot of these manufacturers, it's a wild west. Like I ordered 4 machines last week, they didn't pull my credit, and I did zero money down. And that machine will do 2 grand a month, and my monthly payment for the machine is $170.
They didn't even do a credit report?
They didn't even do a credit report. That's what I'm saying. It's like a lot of these manufacturers have in-house financing and
Hmm.
it's literally the equivalent of car dealerships.
And run through the price point again with me. What would be like a basic machine cost?
Probably 6K.
Okay. And then you mentioned AI cameras. Is that
Hmm.
the ones that we were talking about that the credit card unlocks them and you walk into the cooler type of one?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. And they're upwards of, you said,
They're anywhere from I don't know, 6 to 7K. The reason I hesitate is like in our group, because we order so many of these, our community will actually get them for 5K. But I don't know what they retail if you went to their website, what they would charge you on the street.
what are maybe one or two places that people could look to buy? Now, obviously, again, on their own, they're not going to get the same pricing as
Yeah, yeah,
buying in bulk. But
yeah. So one company that's really caught my eye recently is micromart.com. They also have digital screens on these smart coolers. So you're talking about digital ad revenue now. The second
mm,
company, there's three of them. You got Cantaloupe and then you got 365 Retail Markets. So all three of those are kind of the main players in the space.
okay. And are those manufacturers out of the US?
They are.
They
Yep.
are. Oh, okay. So, what other costs involved? You buy the machine, you are ideally maybe doing a revenue share of some description. Is there
Yep.
other costs? Like other, obviously, product, whatever you're stocking it with.
Yeah, so if let's just go with hypothetical. I'm a side hustle hero. I found a location that says, let's move forward. How much capital am I going to need? So
Okay.
let's say it's a gym that you work out at. So the machine, let's say you finance one of these smart machines, let's say it's 6K with shipping, that's going to be about $160 a month over 60 months with around an 8, 9, 10% interest rate. So you got your first month payment's going to be $160. Your inventory is going to be around $400 to fill it the first time. Let's round up and say $500. And that's literally the only expense to get that machine up and running. Now, on the backside, you're going to have a credit card transaction fee because they're using their card. There's going to be a software fee for that machine because of the AI cameras and the software updates on the back end to maintain the app, but that's all a percentage of your revenue. And so even the
Right.
commission to the property is going to be so the upfront cost to get going, you're looking at whatever that is, let's just round up 200, 500. You're looking at $700 to $800 to get going with that first machine.
Hmm. Plus shipping.
Well, the shipping would be included in that 6K.
Okay, that's part of the lease.
Yep.
What are the AI cameras for if it's not a higher end machine?
So when you grab something out of that cooler, you don't scan it. There's no like self checkout like a grocery store. It's purely whatever you grab, those cameras are going to charge you for.
All the new machines you're dealing with are this cooler type, not the traditional push the button in, the can of pop falls out. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the reason why is we did a fascinating case study about a month ago. We swapped out a traditional vending machine with the motors and the codes, and that machine was doing $35 a day. So it was doing right around 11 to 1200 bucks a month. We pulled that machine and put a smart machine in. Same exact location. Our daily sales went from $35 a day to last month $120 a day.
Really?
That machine did over $3,000 because my theory is when you go to that machine, now you put your credit card in, open the door to the fridge, you're going to grab, you're going to grab a soda, you're going to grab a bag of chips, you might grab a burrito. Like there's no, oh, for each one, I have to enter in a new code. It's like, I'm going to grab all three and just walk away. There's not even I have to run the barcode. The cameras will charge you based on what you grab. So there's no scanning the barcode of each item. There's no self-checkout at all.
You just probably close the door and it spits out a receipt or something. Is
exactly.
That what happened?
It texts you receipt. Yep.
And part of it, at least initially, too, might be it just catches your eye and it's like, whoa, what's that? Oh, I got to check that out.
Yeah.
even
yeah.
though,
yeah.
even though you wouldn't.
Yeah.
So how long has it been at that location?
6 weeks. And I looked this morning because I'm on the West Coast, and by 9 a.m. we had already done $90 for the day.
And where's the machine located?
An apartment complex right there in the game room.
And I love the fact that you can just pull out your phone and it gives you a read on the inventory as well.
It does, yep.
That's crazy. You're still having someone or yourself go by and drive by these machines. How often does that happen?
Yeah, so this one is crushing it. So he's by there twice a week. So he's usually there front end of the week to replenish it from the weekend, and then end of the week. So he'll probably go by tomorrow to top it off going into the weekend.
Which isn't a bad problem to have. You look at your phone and it's like, oh, damn, I got to go make some more money now.
Yeah. Or he wakes up in the morning, looks at his phone, he's like, wow, I made $90. And it's some kids coming home from the bar had the munchies last night or something.
So I guess as far as stocking it that first time, there's no guarantees. There's no absolutes. It's a matter of seeing who's in the area, who's going to be buying it, and then determine what you think they're going to be purchasing and go a little bit smaller quantities to see what's selling and what's not.
Yeah, and also I think, it's going to be a huge data play as the market's going through such a massive disruption right now with like flipping the old machines up on its head as far as these smart machines. So the future's in the data. I keep coming back to everything is going to be all about the data. Like we're talking trends with products, but take that a step further and what are they buying together now? Because they don't have to just enter in the codes one motor at a time. They like, are they getting a soda and a bag of chips, a soda and a candy bar? Like, how long are they at that machine? Because there's a camera on that smart machine. So then you start running the digital ads and you can quantify that foot traffic when you go to, hey, Pepsi, do you want to do a buy one, get one free on the top of this machine?
Right. And that becomes another source of revenue.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting situation because in preparation for this interview, I stumbled across an article that focused on the University of Waterloo in Ontario, Canada. And one of the students was using the machine and there was an error code. And it said something about error code, facial recognition, blah, blah, blah. And this guy's like, whoa, what the hell? I'm just buying this pop and what's going on here? And the University of Waterloo demanded that the company pull out all 27 machines. They're like, these people aren't given permission for the facial recognition. And the company was trying to backtrack saying, well, it's not really facial recognition. They're not storing the data. They were just looking at basically the demographic information. So what's your take on all that?
I do think that's a definitely a concern. A lot of people will think of like they'll ask, "Oh, what about machine insurance?" And I come back to, "Well, what about cybersecurity insurance?" Because now when we talk cameras and we talk these terminals that are doing credit card transactions, like what if that inventory platform on the back end gets hacked into? It's truly a lot of these smart coolers, there's no cache, which
Right.
has a lot of benefits as an operator, but there's also the downside of those transactions are up in the cloud somewhere. So I think it's a definitely a valid concern. I mean, you've seen all the scams and the alerts and the hacks these days, and I don't see it getting any better.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
actually getting worse.
So maybe we should hang on to some of those old machines just in case there's a demand for them back. I just want to buy a pop. I don't want to end up in
Yeah.
somebody's database somewhere. So, what types of items have the best markup, have you found?
I think drinks definitely have the best for sure. Candy bars have a high cost of goods. So like a Snickers is $1. You're not going to get $3 for a little Snickers bar, but
Yep.
there you can get Celsius's, for example, these energy drinks that'll sell for $6 in an airport. You can get them for $1 from Costco and sell them for 3.50, $4 in your machine, and it's cheaper than the 7-Eleven. So there's
Yeah.
definitely convenience there. And then usually, typically, if it weighs more, you can charge more. So whether that's like a sandwich or a bigger bag of chips, those are going to have bigger transaction values and a lot of times even better margins as well.
Who pays for the electricity?
The property.
Okay. So the profit sharing would offset that plus some.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of these smart coolers will go into like sleep mode when they're not being used.
Okay.
So it'll basically be running. It's kind of like a hybrid car when you're not pushing the gas pedal. It's basically off.
So you mentioned Costco several times. Like, is that where you get most of your product?
It was
Okay.
starting out as a little side hustle, but now I'm to the point with kind of the size of our route where we're going straight to the distributors and the manufacturers of the consumer products, just
Okay.
because then we get some product rebates that a club like a Costco or a Sam's won't give you those. So
Right.
that's as you start to scale that side hustle, you'll kind of evolve from what's local and convenient to okay, let's order this at scale once a month, and I don't need my operator going to Costco for 8 hours a week.
Yeah. Once you get up to that level and you've
Yeah.
got the data that tells you what's selling or not.
Yeah.
Thinking of the deli again, there were times where places like Costco in our town, it was Walmart or some of the larger supermarket chains, they would put cases of pop on sale as loss leaders, cheaper than
Mhm.
I was buying it wholesale from our pop guy. And so we'd load up with cases from
Yeah.
these stores. So I can see that you going to the distributors now or the wholesalers.
Yeah. It's fascinating, the whole loss leaders thing. And then when you get big enough, those Pepsi and Coke will compete for shelf space. And where do you put those products on your, because it's not just motors anymore, where it's like, oh, this motor only fits a 12-ounce can, or this motor will actually hold a 16-ounce bottle. It's like, here's an open fridge door. Where are we going to put what and what are we going to put on it? And that's when you can really start to negotiate those rebates with these product distributors.
As far as the actual product placement in your cooler,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So that you would literally get a better deal if
Yep.
it's basically at eye level within reach, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So if it was, let's say Joan gets 3 or 4 locations, now she goes to her local Pepsi distributor and they're like, oh, we'll give you a 2% rebate. And you're like, no, I'd like a 5% rebate if I order 20 cases and I put you guys on the top 2 shelves of my micro market.
Got it. Nice strategy. What's something that a newbie often screws up or typically overlooks?
They don't create the demand first. They go right to what machine should I get? That's kind of back to what we talked about earlier. Everyone gets so excited about the things that are you don't have to worry about yet. I think you gotta really kind of put yourself out there. For example, the gym. If you belong to a gym and you're paying a membership, the manager's going to listen to what you have to say naturally anyway.
Yes.
Or if you go to the doctor in a medical office building where there's 50 people waiting in the lobby for 10 different floors of services, that doctor is going to know who the property manager is. And he's also going to be PO'd that the downstairs cafeteria closes at 2 p.m. every day when
Right.
his nurses are working all night and they need some coffee or something to get them through the night. So,
And
um,
the lineups too long.
exactly. Yep. Yep. So I think just kind of tapping into finding a lead first versus like figuring out what kind of machine I need to get and all of that first.
And that's tapping into the people that you already know, the places that you already
Hmm.
visit. You mentioned building excitement.
Hmm.
What did you mean by that?
We have locations where until we do a promo, like 2 months into it, and then all of a sudden sales spike. It actually wasn't the location, but if you have a 10 floor building and it's on the third floor, a lot of people are rolling into the lobby and they're humans are habitual, right? So they just
Yes.
go into the lobby, they go up to the eighth floor where their office is, and they're not roaming around on the other floors. But the minute now they have an excitement, or you offer a $2 code for your first transaction or whatever, now they're gonna get exposed to that machine.
So you are doing some type of promotions or advertising around it to spread awareness that, hey, this machine is on the third floor.
Exactly. So we're doing a big rollout this weekend with a micro market. It's going live tomorrow, but we're doing an e-blast today where we created a promo code around that property that's whatever the property name is, 10. So it's they're blasting it to all their tenants and it's going to be 10% off through the end of the weekend.
That's excellent. So you would create the marketing piece, the email, send it to the property manager. He and she would then send it out to all the residents.
Exactly. And just create that property excitement.
Right. Nice. So that is a piece of it, is that promotion ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Do you think one of the challenges these days is the market just being oversaturated or being saturated?
That's a valid concern. My hesitation to that, or my counter to that, is 90% of the leads we find already have vending machines, and they are either broken or it's the baby boomer generation that doesn't have a cell phone and they don't track inventory. So guess what? The only way to
Mm,
track inventory is to drive by it. Well, humans are lazy, so this machine sits empty. And the only thing worse than not having a vending machine for your residents or your tenants is having one that's empty. And so there's two we installed this week where they already had vending, but they thought that these
interesting.
big bulky machines were ugly. They didn't want the giant Coke logo with only Coke, like the
Yes.
healthier, the modern
Yeah.
coolers where instead of 5 motors of Coke, we can have maybe one Coke and then the rest is salads and subs and whatever that kind of.
Yes.
So that's where I don't think it's saturated from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, I think traditional vending machines have been around forever.
But then to your point, then that is the first step is finding that location.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the
Perfect.
pitching them on the more modern approach to it and the healthier approach.
Right. And give it a nice facelift.
Hmm.
Do you go to vending machine trade shows?
I did like 2 months ago was my first one, the National Vending Conference.
Oh, Mike, you must have been like a kid in a candy store there with all those machines and the new
Oh,
technology. And
it's crazy. It's all the TikTok videos that go viral. You got the pizza machine. You got the literally it was like it's almost like a casino buffet machine. It had everything from noodles and meatballs to pizza to fried chicken machine. I didn't even want to like know how the back end of that thing operates
yeah.
because yeah, it was just there was everything under the moon at this thing.
Hmm. Yeah, around the corner from my sister's place, they installed one of those. It's like a pizza vending machine. It's made right there. I didn't try it, but they said that's not bad. But 2 in the morning, if you're driving home from something and you can get this fresh hot pizza. Well, I was going to ask you, what's the most unique product you've heard or seen that's been sold out of a vending machine?
Ooh, that's a good question. I still think the Lego machines you see in the airports, like when I roll through O'Hare, I'm like, I'd actually buy $100 Lego set from a vending machine just to keep my kid occupied on that flight. I'm
I never
flying
thought of that.
14 hours to Europe. I'll buy that Lego set. Totally ROI there.
I've never seen that. So is like a Lego branded vending machine?
That's exactly it. It's a
Okay.
shiny yellow Lego machine that just sells Lego sets in the airport. And there's ever like you can't get a set for cheaper than $90.
Wow. Yeah, I have noticed in my airport here, the international airport has a vending machine by Best Buy electronics store, and they're selling noise canceling headphones and earbuds and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thinking back on, because you've got 40 machines now, what's one of those crazy, oh, man, you've got to be kidding me moments when you got a call about one of your machines or something you discovered when you arrived?
Yeah, there was a call one time from my operator that was like, "Hey, I think someone was trying to." There was the front glass of the traditional machines was scratched from the inside. I was like, "Oh, that's really weird." And so I went by there, and sure enough, a college kid, had taken a hanger and straightened it out and had hooked up through the door to
Right.
try to snag products that would fall down into the. So they had these little door flaps now that protect from that, but we
Yes.
didn't have those installed initially.
Okay.
And so that was definitely like are you kidding me? Because he
Yeah.
definitely had thought that through. And then even recently we had installed these smart machines, and we'll do like an 8 pack of a snack, let's say Pop Tarts, like a box of eight. We'll sell boxes of eights. And one kid had opened the box and taken out 1 pack. Well, the AI cameras just charge him for all eight. So it's like, dude, you forgot seven more. You might as well just take the whole box with you because there's no like scanning it or any of that stuff. Whatever you
Right.
grab,
Yes.
the AI camera's reading that spot or that shelf space
Sure.
as an item. So he just got charged for all eight, but he thought he was trying to pull a fast one.
Mm. He didn't outsmart the AI that time. Mm.
No, he didn't. He didn't outsmart. I'm sure we'll run into more use cases like that where hopefully they don't outsmart it, but who knows?
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge for someone trying to get into the market and set this up?
It's all like your route and your limitations are always going to be the number of leads. And so I come this
Okay.
from a very kind of scaling the number of locations and leads perspective and figuring out how to hire an operator and create the demand first. And that's always going to be the limiting factor is finding locations. And you think back to earlier when we talked about self-storage, I think in 3 to 4 years, there's going to be a big consolidation because the cash flow
Mm.
is so attractive in this
Right.
that people are just going to start snatching up small routes and small mom and pops that are going to Costco. And now they're like, oh wow, I got into this with little to minimal capital, and now I have 2 years of cash flowing machines that are doing. Let's say they got 5 machines doing $1,000 a month. Now that's 5,000 a month times 12. That's a 60K year route that they can sell for potentially a 2x multiple. Well, I got into that with less than $1,000 a machine. And sure, I'll take the 120K and sell it to a conglomerate that's just gonna consolidate it all, and their operator's now just gonna add 5 more locations to his stocking route. So I think it's gonna
Yeah.
be a big
Mm.
consolidation coming up here.
And that is exactly what's been happening in the self-storage industry is these bigger
Mm.
players buying up the mom and pop operations that are ready to retire and flashing the big bucks. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
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 that
yeah,
was
yeah.
fun while it lasted. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Vending machines, say in an international airport. My guess is there's some large players in the industry that are already
Mhm.
have those contracts. Would that be a reasonable assumption?
Absolutely. Well, that's where you're gonna either have to say no thanks or offer a outside the box idea just to get in the door, like a Lego machine or if a canteen or a food provider already has a vending services because they're the ones that are providing the food for the airplanes. You're not going to have margins that match them because they're already going to the airport to stock the airplanes with products. So
Right.
if you come at it with a Lego solution or even the Best Buy example, and even that's starting to get saturated. So maybe you come at it with like a massage chair solution, like all these kind of outside the box ideas just to get a footprint at the airport.
Hmm. And for the going back to the Lego example, whether it's an airport or some other location where it would make sense, is it a matter of going to Lego in the US or Lego Canada or the UK, wherever you are, and almost pitching them on the idea, or they're not involved at all?
That's a good question. A lot of these players are different.
Okay.
Farmer's Fridge has the salad vending machines that are very niche and they're kind of getting some traction with their little bold salads. They have Farmer's Fridge machines. and they are actually going directly to the airports themselves. So
Okay.
I'd ask them because I'm big on like this healthy kind of concept, like, hey, can we buy some of your machines and your product? I think they're trying to control their brand for now, but I think eventually they're going to need some growth channels, and that's where they might have to let go and let other people kind of buy their machines and use their machines
Hmm.
out in the wild.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of a creative entrepreneur out there where they see a product that's missing somewhere and think, oh, this company's product would do really, really well here. Going to that company and say, hey, give me a really good price on your product and I'll take care of the rest. But let me buy from you for X amount of dollars.
Exactly. I mean, even
Yeah.
the airport thing with the Legos, what are other things that either a kid needs for his flight that he might have forgot? I mean, we could talk through like
Yeah.
travel pillows, all those kind of items. It's no different than the incidental section of a hotel when you check in. They got like phone chargers, they got the Tylenol, but what are those other things? Throw those in a machine and people are going to buy them based on convenience.
I just thought of something else for the airport vending machine. There was a flight that I was on, and the parents had an infant with them, and it was the infant's first flight, and the parents were concerned about how the child and of course the passengers around were going to react. And they had these little packages made that they handed out to all the people sitting around them that included things like earplugs, chocolates, and a little note
Oh
explaining
man.
it was the child's first flight. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting because there's a lot of United will give kids a little packet, almost like when you go to an Olive Garden or something, and it's got
Right.
crayons, it's got a little piece of paper that's like the Lion King, and you can color in Simba, and then it's got
Right.
maybe a jigsaw puzzle. I mean, you could
Yeah.
literally do a vending machine that anything that will distract a kid for a flight.
Yeah, just something that focused on the parents and these ones to
Yeah,
hand around to the passengers all around them.
yeah,
Because, I
yeah,
mean, we've done this on a flight that the family comes on and you're like, oh man, you're going to be sitting next to me and this kid's going to be crying. And so that broke the ice right away. And now you went from this kind of
yeah.
hesitation, oh my God, what this flight's going to be like, to this, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, it's almost like you need like a machine with shooters and like all kinds of just
Yeah.
chocolates to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. We'll put our heads together and get a machine in a airport real soon.
I love it.
What is something that I should have asked you about the vending machine business that I haven't yet?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think one thing that just there's different exit strategies when you get into vending. There's kind of the buy and hold mindset of your cash flowing forever, but there is that strategy of just like real estate, when you get that first location, that is an asset. So that asset to you, you can sell someday. Let's say you build a route in Toronto and now it's like you move to Chicago and you don't want to manage that route remotely. You just sell that asset for a very significant amount. So that's where I think the interesting thing with vending to me is, it's not sexy, it's not get rich quick, but it's an asset that you can either hold on to, just like real estate, for cash flow for the next generation, or if you're over it in 3 years or you're over it in a year, you just sell the route.
Yeah, and it's not labor intensive.
Exactly.
What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Mike?
Probably the easiest is just vendingpreneurs.com. They can book a call through the website there, and that's a seamless way to kind of get a hold of us. In its truest sense, it's a out of the box vending solution for side hustle 9 to 5er types that don't even know where to start, don't even have any leads yet. Like, we coach them from A to Z on finding a lead, to what machine should go in that location, to where they should get their product, how they should price their product, contract templates, like the whole kind of cycle of a vending location. And so we just help people build some side hustle wherever they live.
Great. And getting them thinking about aspects of the vending machine business that they might not have thought of or occurred.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, lastly, what's your best tip to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle?
Oh man, putting me on the spot after just listening to some of your episodes. I think the common theme for me is you just got to start. What's the saying? Like, an idea is just that. So there's so many people that come to me with great ideas, and I'm like, I don't need another great idea. I either need more time in the day or someone that's going to execute on the idea.
Right.
And so for me, it's as you go down this path or take this leap into your first side hustle, you just got to start, and no one's got to figure it out. But the people that did figure out things is they just started.
That's right. You start, you learn.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for guiding us on how to start and grow a profitable vending machine route and your insights, and of course, for being today's Side Hustle Hero.
Joan, thanks for having me. Love what you guys are doing, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it.
I really liked Mike's suggestion for scouting great locations. Start with places you already know, like a gym or a medical building. Not only are you familiar with the foot traffic patterns, but you also have some leverage if you're paying a gym membership or you're a patient in the building. The point I want to add is don't be discouraged if you don't find a location right away. As you know, vending machines have been around forever, and the potential as a side hustle is no secret. If a property manager or owner gives you a no, take the opportunity to dig a little deeper. Find out why they're objecting. Maybe their previous experience involved someone who too often left the machines empty and frustrated customers. Use that insight to more effectively structure your offer. If you've read my book, The Way Success Works, or are enrolled in my course, How to Turn Your Thoughts into Wanted Things, you're familiar with the reticular activating system. It's a network of nerve fibers located deep within the brainstem. It helps regulate the brain's level of awareness, bringing to your attention that which is important to you. For example, maybe you barely noticed vending machines before, but now if you're seriously considering it as a side hustle, you'll start noticing them everywhere, especially, and this is fun, in places you already frequent, but never noticed the vending machines there before. That's the reticular activating system at work. Maybe you'll now notice some old, tired-looking machines just begging to be replaced with the newer AI-driven, cooler-type vending machines. You'll start thinking about and seeing all sorts of possibilities, which eventually may lead to you finding a great location. If this side hustle is for you, let me know when you place your first machine.